I have
by another person.
full subscription.
Yeah,
Well,
I
you have
got
to-
Everybody,
Section is
I
called.
would think if you could do that.
30, so I think we're about ready to get started. And if you have a cell phone, that would be helpful because this is our very first hybrid meeting. And we're really excited. Are we live on camera?
We
Or?
are.
We are live?
Yes, we are.
Okay. I see you checking something like that.
I'm gonna try.
I didn't hear that conviction in your
Oh,
voice.
you're good.
Nothing to do with giving you a thumbs up.
All right, awesome. I'm Brett Coleman. I'm president of Bexar Audubon. I want to thank everybody for coming. And like I said, this is our very first hybrid meeting. And we've been for over 3 years now doing nothing but Zoom. And we decided a couple of months ago that it was time to change that and to open this situation up so that we could, for those that want, come and socialize and greet old friends, make new friends, and have some refreshments. And we'll be doing this for the rest of the year. And I'm going to stand on the other side. Move around.
Stand in front of the podium. If you
Stand
can.
in front of the podium. Okay. So anyway, we're going to be doing this for the rest of the year and having this hybrid. This is an experiment for us. It's brand new. This is our first time, as I said. So if we seem a little cautious in what we're doing, it's because we've not done it before. And want to thank the Alamo Community Colleges, which is where we're meeting live here at 2222 North Alamo. And Jessica Barnes, who just walked out, has been our support, our technical support for setting up the hybrid meeting. And even though she's out of the room and can't hear this, I want to thank her from the bottom of my heart for all the support she's given us. She has met with us 3 or 4 times, helping us get this whole thing ready so that we understand what we're doing. And so hopefully we can pull this off without a hitch. But also to make things even more difficult, not only is this our first hybrid meeting, but we have not only one speaker, but 2. And on top of that, we have one that's going to be remote and one that's going to be live. So every possible combination, we're going to be trying to work through all of that. So hopefully we'll be able to do this without embarrassing ourselves too much. For those that are online, I would ask that you mute your microphones. You can leave your cameras on, but you can mute your microphones, so we don't get feedback from that. And you can enter your comments into the chat or any questions. Patsy's going to be monitoring the chat, and she'll be able to provide questions at the end of the speakers. So with that, I'd like to just give a few quick announcements, and then we'll move on to our speaker. And there we go. So we have a couple of really good projects that are coming up. These are new for 2023, and one of those is the Purple Martin project. So Allison Hain came to me a couple of months ago with this fabulous idea. And those of you who don't know Allison Hain, she's known as the Purple Martin lady. She's been dealing with purple martins in San Antonio for a long time. And she had this fabulous idea. She said, I'm driving all over town and I see these purple martin houses that are abandoned. And you see nesting material from sparrows and from starlings and from wrens just hanging out of it. And they're not going to be used by a purple martin in that way. What if instead of creating nesting habitat for the invasive birds, house sparrows and starlings, what if we rehab these houses and tried to open them back up to purple martins? And I thought, that is such a fabulous idea. Let's do that. So we now have this project to find abandoned purple martin houses and rehab them. And so we're asking for everyone's help to identify these purple martin houses. If you know where one is, if you have a friend or a neighbor, or maybe even yourself, we'll be happy to take a look at the house, take a look at the habitat. Maybe is it the right habitat? If it is, if it isn't, And if the house can be rehabbed, we'll take it and we'll rehab it and maybe relocate it somewhere else. So what we're asking for is your help in finding abandoned purple martin houses. Once we get a list of purple martin houses, we'll set up a project to go out and rehab the houses. And this is all approved for Master Naturalist hours. We are sponsoring a workshop at the Cibolo Nature Center. When is that, Ken? Coming up in March, right? March 4th. March 4th. We're sponsoring a workshop at Cibolo Nature Center where Allison's going to talk about how to be a good landlord. And I think that's going to be set up for advanced training hours for those of you that are Purple Martin people or Texas Master Naturalist people. Another project is Golden Cheek Warbler Survey. We've been doing this for well over 10 years. And this is where we survey different properties, parks in the north part of Bexar County, counting golden cheek warblers. We'll have a training in early March to train you on the protocol. It's a point-based protocol. And we'd love to have volunteers come out and help us do the survey. We are also looking for someone to manage this particular project. So if you have an interest in volunteering, I would appreciate your consideration. You can certainly get in touch with us at Bexar Audubon, info@bexaraudubon.org. But besides that, if you're interested in golden cheek warbler and doing the survey, consider signing up for that. All of this information is on our website, and all of the signups will be on our website as well. And the training is AT approved for Master Naturalist, as are volunteer hours. The other program that I'd like to announce is our Birding with a Purpose. So this is the landowner surveys. So people with conservation easements often have a wildlife exemption on their conservation easement. So what we're doing is we're setting up bird surveys, bird monitoring programs to help them with their conservation easements. But they not only have to already have a conservation easement, it could be a landowner that is interested in managing their property for wildlife or for conservation in general, and just needs education on what kind of birds they have on their property and how they can manage for birds. So if you want to come out and help us bird on these surveys, we have a survey coming up this Saturday at Don Kerchaw's property. He's a prairie land restoration. So that's the first one. We have another one in February out of Meet the Haggards place. And again, this is all on the website. But the idea behind this is to not only get information for the landowner, but everything we put, every survey we do, we put that information into eBird. And so it goes to Cornell Ornithology Lab. And this is valuable because Texas has 95% private lands. And so there's a lot of unbirded land out there. And one of the things that Cornell Ornithology is doing is they do bird abundance and trending analysis by species, by location. And if you look at their maps, they have the maps for a specific species within its range, and it can either be red, blue, or white. Red means that it's decreasing in population, blue means it's increasing in population, and white means there's just simply not enough data. And when you look at the state of Texas, for a large number of species of birds, there's tons of white out there. So what this does is this helps to fill that in and make this information of use to Cornell for their trending information. So it's not only helping educate landowners on how to manage their property for birds, but it's also helping science as well. So it's overall, it's a great program, and we hope that you'll be willing to help us out with the surveys. And again, all the volunteer hours are eligible for Master Naturalists. And then lights out. As you know, a lot of birds migrate at night, and for hundreds of millions of years, they migrated without any artificial light at all. last 80 years, we have blanketed the world in artificial light. This is very confusing for us. So what we ask is that during the spring and the fall migration, that you turn your lights out, turn them down, and if possible, turn them off. So with that, our very next program in February, which will be here as well as on Zoom, is going to be presented by Dr. Tanya Omayun. I don't know if I'm saying that right, but hopefully I'm close. And she's the state ornithologist for Texas Parks and Wildlife. And she'll be talking about safer skies for migrating birds and why this is such an important program. So we're not only in Bexar County, but we are in all the surrounding counties as well. We want to be active in these counties, and so we invite all of y'all to come join us and be a part of the birding community and the conservation community that we try to work on. And with that, I'm done with the announcements, and what I'd like to do is to introduce our two speakers. Our first speaker, and they're both going to talk about Hog Island. And if you know about Hog Island, or even if you've been there, it is an island off the coast of Maine, owned by Audubon, National Audubon, and they conduct programs out there. And I've not had the opportunity to go, but everybody that I've talked to that has been there has said that it's a life-changing experience. And we're going to find out from two people what that experience is like. And our first speaker is Yvette Stewart. She's the community outreach coordinator for Audubon Texas, and she's going to be talking about her Field Ornithology Camp that she attended at Hog Island, which was on all things avian. And Yvette has a bachelor's in wildlife and conservation biology from the University of Rhode Island and a master's in education and curriculum and instruction from the University of Texas. She's a lover of all creatures, from tiny spiders to soaring eagles, and she's happiest when she's showing other people the wonders of the natural world. And so with that, I would like to, well, I guess there's one other thing I should mention about Yvette. She's a very busy woman. She manages 2 statewide programs for Audubon Texas. One of those is the Audubon's Conservation Leaders for Young Women. This is a very special program that gets girls in high school involved in conservation and teaches them to lead with confidence. Amazing program. And she also manages Bird City, Texas. And so, which is also an amazing program. So I'd like to, first off, she'll be our first speaker and she's remote. So I'd like to welcome Yvette Stewart.
Thank you so much, Britt. And I am remote tonight. I could not join you in San Antonio because we are reviewing the current applications to hopefully have some newly certified Bird City, Texas communities. And of course, San Antonio is one of our certified communities. So we're really proud of the work that Bexar has led to get San Antonio certified, and love hearing all of these wonderful surveys you folks are going to be engaging with that really help support urban conservation, and love that you're getting landowners more engaged. So high five. Thank you for that wonderful introduction. And can everybody see my screen okay? Looks like it. Okay.
Yes.
Thank you. So we're going to start off, just kind of dive into this. And the very first thing I want to say is thank you. I could not have had this experience without the support of Bexar Audubon. Patsy and I had actually started talking about this in 2018 when I was the educator at Mitchell Lake Audubon. She had been like, oh, it's amazing. You should totally check it out. You know, you would love it. You'd have such a great experience. And so she kind of whetted my appetite in the fall of 2018. And then Bexar Audubon offered me this scholarship to attend camp in summer of 2020. And so they told me, I think December 2019, like, hey, we want you to go. We're going to help you get there. And then, of course, 2020 played out the way that it did. And so I was not able to attend. And then in summer of 2021, Bexar came back. Fred was like, hey, Yvette, we still want you to go. If you can go this year, we definitely want you to go. And I couldn't get vaccinated in time. I was not sure that I would get that support, and I didn't want to travel before I was vaccinated. So you guys have stuck with me for 3 years trying to get me out to Hog Island, and I just am so Island for 11 years. So I love New England. There is something super magical about New England in the summertime. So as you get to Hog Island, I took a train from Boston up to Maine, and then a bus, and then the boat. And so it's a very like New England experience just getting to the island. And I stayed in the Porthole Lodge, which is a pretty old building. It has like the narrow staircases that you expect in old New England houses. Everything is wood. It's just so quintessential New England. I loved it. It was so like welcoming to be there again. The food on the island is amazing. So I think the same chef comes back every year. I know that there was a new sous chef, and she did a great job explaining every meal. I have some dietary restrictions and I have some health stuff, and she worked with me every time that I needed like a special diet. So they're super accommodating, and everything is so fresh and like so thoughtfully prepared. So if you're a foodie and you love nature, this is the camp for you. It's like a perfect combination. And then everything that is on Hog Island is run by either Audubon staff, and Eva Lark is in this picture with me. She's the director of Hog Island. She's wonderful. She's so warm and approachable and welcoming, and like has great jokes. And so it was really wonderful to meet some of my national Audubon colleagues. But then all the food services, all the cleanup, the taking care of the houses, all of that is done by volunteers. And so kind-hearted people like yourselves who like to give back to their communities, you know, come in for a week or 2 weeks or the whole summer and help out. And so there's lots of opportunities if you want to go spend the summer in Maine volunteering. So I've already said, like, you have these wonderful old New England kind of houses on the island, but some other main features of the experience is first this bell. This bell is rung for every one of those meals. So at 7 o'clock in the morning, it's chiming for breakfast. At 5 o'clock or 5:30, it's chiming for dinner. And it's just, you can hear it anywhere on the island. So if you have gone off on your own little bird walk, you're not going to miss dinner. And in fact, they wear specialty earmuffs to protect their ears when they ring it. So it's just like an insane call to food. And this beautiful woodpecker statue is right in that same area. So the main area is right off the welcome dock. Sorry, slides. And there are a couple of different pollinator gardens around the dinner area. You do eat outside. And so I just loved it because you had all these lush, different types of flowers blooming. And of course, flowers bring pollinators. And so right by the hummingbird feeder, we had some really cool pollinators moving around on the warmer days that I was there. And they do have a very small feeding station for birds. So if you are not hypermobile, you could sit down in the afternoon near the feeding station and just see some really beautiful local species. One of my favorite to see was the purple finch. I was super excited. I thought it was a new lifer. So I got some great pictures of it coming into the feeding area, just kind of hanging out. And then only when I got home later in the summer did I realize I had seen one in 2017. But to me, this is like my real life bird because I had a more in-depth experience with it. And I feel like I'm going to remember this purple house finch a lot more. And of course, not just the birds love the seeds that are around. We had a couple of cute little mammals visiting. One was a vole that I didn't get a picture of, but it really got all of the kids excited. So I was there for field ornithology class, and it corresponds to the same time that one of the weeks for teens is there. So at lunchtime and when there was kind of downtime in between birding sessions, you'd get to mingle with the kids. And so you'd be able to see them kind of having some of these also amazing life experiences. For me, one of my favorite parts of being at the island was the really early morning birding. And so this is a beautiful picture of just basically standing on the corner of the island, right by, again, breakfast and all of the good stuff. But the sunlight is just beautiful. It's so calm out there. And in the morning, there's so much action happening. It's lush. So as you walk further inland from the coastal area, everything is super vibrant green. So even when it's early morning, like this fern picture on the right, everything is just popping with color. On the left, I'm not sure what plant this is. It's one of the native plants that they had around their garden. And so again, in the early morning, I would kind of walk uphill into this little clearing where you could just sit there and be inundated with so much bird song. So we had white-throated sparrows moving all around. There were tons of black-throated greens. There were tons of parulas singing, a couple of juncos as well. It's just a magical spot to sit in the morning. And as you can see, it is very rich with insect life. Every time I was trying to take a picture of a bird, there was either an insect that they had just finished eating or were currently eating. So this song sparrow on the right here, this was again right by the breakfast area. So you could hear him singing every day, pretty much all day long, unless his mouth was full of food. And so not only is the habitat really lush there, but you have lots of young birds being born and hatching there. So here's a young bald eagle that would be cruising around pretty regularly throughout my week there. We also have a resident osprey that as you get onto the dock to head over to the actual island, it was building its nest right on top of the dock area. And so she would kind of flush every time that we came by. But as you hike to different parts of the island, there are just other osprey nests and bald eagle nests all over the place. So that's kind of the setting, right? It's lush. It's like so old school New England. It's just a beautiful place to be with really passionate people. But I was there for Field Ornithology Week. So I'm going to give you a little taste of what we did every day. Starting with Monday, it was our Marine Science Day. And the woman that you see on the screen here, this is Elizabeth. Did not write her name down, but she was a graduate student of marine sciences. And she was awesome. She was like a super nature nerd. She was really engaged with everything. She found this little garter snake on our way to one of our afternoon hikes on Monday. So she was just wonderful. She also knew where the pitcher plants were. There's a small bridge as you walk out to the area where she was going to do the marine science with us. And we stopped and got to check out these really cool pitcher plants. So we get to the coast. And she had people who were properly prepared kind of walk out into the water using nets and kind of scooping along the rocks to see what we could find. So I wrote here that I traveled light, did not think to bring water boots. So for anybody who might go to Hog Island after this, consider not packing super light and bring some like knee-high water resistant boots so that you can get more engaged. The water was freezing. I think it was like in the 60s, maybe low 60s, high 50s, somewhere in there. So it was very cold to try and walk into the water. And I did not do it. I let braver people do that. But we got some really cool things on this day. And so Elizabeth would kind of walk us through everything that we were finding. And so this here is a freshwater eel that someone had scooped out. And it's Maine, and so there are tons of Asian green crabs all around. And so unfortunately, we found one of those. And as you can see here, there are a ton of eggs on this crab. So it's an invasive species. It's really hard to control, and they are very fertile, just like everything else was on the island. So kind of a bummer to see it, but also kind of cool to get it up close and be able to learn how to ID it. So I started my undergraduate as a marine scientist. So coming back to this program, getting hands-on, getting to look at all of these New England marine species that I had learned a little bit about, it was super refreshing. It kind of brought me back to like my childlike wonder. And so I really appreciated this opportunity to kind of get my hands dirty, even if my feet stayed dry. And it was just a beautiful day. And then later in the afternoon, we did a walk to the artist in residence location. And so every year, I believe that they do 2 artists on the island. I could be remembering that incorrectly, but they have a cabin that's kind of remote and that is able to be used for an artist in residence. And there's a really great hike out to that area. So here we are, the braver people, getting into the water, kind of pulling out some things. And as you can see, it's just beautiful out there, totally picturesque. And I want to take a moment and just point to this woman on the very left-hand side of this picture of the group. Her name is Karen. She was based in Dallas, and so we got to talk a lot about the birding community here in Texas, and she is going to help her local community, which is Farmers Branch, apply for the Bird City Texas program. So not only was I there to meet wonderful bird nerds and go out and explore New England birds, but I also got to bring home some really enthusiastic connections to help build back Texas wildlife. So after we did that marine science down by the coast, we walked back to the main buildings, and Elizabeth had put in this trap off the dock. Now, at Hog Island, the tides can be hugely different. So you can see a part of this ramp, depending on where we are in the tide cycle, you can have a very steep walk down there or like a very level walk down there. It was really amazing to see like the height difference on the island. So this is Tyke James and then Elizabeth pulling up a trap that she had put out before we walked out to do the marine science and see what we could catch. And we got a lobster. So very New England to capture a lobster. If I remember correctly, this was a female that she had pulled up. And then we also had this, I want to say redfin, it's not redfin, might be an oyster toad, some kind of cool fish. And she was telling us all these facts. So really love and appreciate being able to combine all different types of nature experiences, not just birds. So that was Monday. This is the hike to the artist in residence. Really beautiful pine forest that they have there. Tuesday, we started our day on the mainland. And so this trip was going to be led by Scott Wiesenthal and Anthony Hill. Anthony has been at Hog Island for a really long time. He is like just a wonderful down-to-earth birder. I wish I could spend like an entire week with Anthony, just hearing his life stories and birding with him. He is really amazing. Scott is also like super approachable and down-to-earth. They're just very different in their approach to birding. And it was wonderful to be on the mainland with both of them, hearing their different approaches to stuff. Yeah, and Scott is a wonderful author, and he has like this warm kind of glowing, I don't know, personality. He's so easy to approach. It's really nice. So on this day, we went to the Hidden Valley Nature Center and Great Salt Bay Farm. This picture here of the tree swallows was taken at Great Salt Bay. They had a number of houses. And again, baby's mouth full of insects. Like they're just doing a great job getting all their nutrients out there. And then the last place that we stopped on this tour was called Fish Ladder. And they have alewives that are spawning there, and so they just get like a ton of herring gulls and ring-billed gulls all kind of piled up there. So great way to kind of experience a wide variety of habitats. So we went to Hidden Valley first. We step out and we saw a downy right away. It was the very first bird that I heard on that trip, and that trip was really nice. You'll see some other pictures in just a moment, but I realized on this trip that it is hard to have the balance between like free-form birding, no expectation, no group rules, versus like intensive birding. We're here for a purpose. We want to be able to hear as much as we can, so don't have lots of side conversation. And because I'm an educator, I am so used to setting like ground rules for how a bird walk is going to go. I think I probably had some mixed expectations about that. So yeah. It was hard for me to be like, oh, let everybody just have their experience versus like, I really want to hear this bird. So yeah, it was a great experience. And I just wanted to point out like that one thing as an educator, I wish I had a little bit more structure. So this was awesome find that Anthony found as we were finishing up our tour of the Hidden Valley area. We found this yellow-bellied sapsucker nest. And so the parents were coming and going with fecal sacks and snacks to the babies. Couldn't see any babies, but it was just such a great find. And the main reason that we go to this spot is because it's a New England bog. And so we got to walk out onto this little platform. We saw a belted kingfisher out there. We saw a very ragged broadwing hawk. But then Scott was able to tell us a little bit more about the peat bog and the ecosystem, and got to point out some of these really cool flowers and dragonflies that were around. And so the next stop, this is again where I saw the tree swallows. We stopped here to look for bobolink, and it was amazing. I could have spent probably all afternoon here trying to take pictures of bobolinks, and I put down like photography of Maine birds and landscapes because it's another class that they offer at Hog Island. And if you are into photography, I don't know, it was really hard for me to not just want to stay in one place and take as many pictures as I could. And I wish I even had more to show you in this presentation. So a pitch for a slightly different class. The idea of being able to sit in an area and get as many bird pictures as possible of these beautiful New England species is totally tempting. And so consider that. And these couple pictures here were from the fish ladder. Again, we kind of walked along this trail looking at all the gulls, but as you get further away from where the fish are running, you get a lot of passerines, and yellow warblers were just everywhere singing constantly. So it was really great. And this catbird here was kind of playing with that little beetle right under its beak. It kind of like picked it up and then it dropped it and picked it up, and it kept kind of jumping all over the place. So it was really fun to watch behavior and not feel rushed, that you could just sit there and be in tune with what was happening in the bird's world around you. Also got to see some robins in this area, and there was one robin that actually came onto Hog Island. You'd hear them, and there was one that came out to the picnic area. Okay, so we did marine science, we did the mainland. On Wednesday, we got to go to Easter Egg Rock, which is home of the puffins. So this was just magical. It was so wonderful to get out there. As we're pulling away from the dock, and you start passing some of these smaller coastal islands, there were seals everywhere. And I wish I had been able to get some decent pictures of them, but there was really dense fog heading out to Eastern Egg. So shout out to the superheroes, because the people who were running the boat and Elizabeth were both really well prepared for the weather and for being on a boat. So I don't normally do well on boats. Between the diesel fumes and the rocking, I get a little bit seasick, and Elizabeth was totally prepared. She had ginger for people to chew on. She had saltines. She just did a great job of making sure that everybody felt good as we went out for this experience. And so this little boat that we were dragging behind us is so that we could easily get to the islands. After checking out the puffins, we were going to go do some bird banding. So great. This is probably my favorite shot that I was able to grab the entire time out there. The puffins were just magical. They are so, I don't know, stubby. Like you don't think they're going to be able to take off. And they do kind of run on water and kind of have to ramp themselves up before they can take into the air. So it's just really wonderful to be out there and getting to watch this cool behavior and hearing the story and how folks at Hog Island, in conjunction with Audubon, have been able to bring this species back from almost barren nesting areas. It was really, really cool to be out there. And while we were out there, we also got to see a common mirror. So that was my first time seeing one of those. Sarah Morris spotted it, and it was like, oh my God, there it is. Like she had warned us ahead of time that we may not be able to find one of these. So that was great to be able to see one. And then on the left side of the screen is just a common eider. And as I mentioned earlier, I lived in Rhode Island for a really long time. And so these were some of my favorite birds to see. So this is like a little bit of coming home, right? I got to see some really cool new birds, but I also got to see something that I'm very familiar with, but I haven't seen in multiple years. Likewise, as we were coming in for the day, we got to see some surf scoters and some black scoter. So this is a picture of me chilling on the boat before we went off into our banding experience. The group of people that I was with for the week were just really thoughtful and kind of reminded me to take a moment and take a picture. So one of the women at the end, or as people were exiting the boat, she was like, give me your phone, I'll take a picture of you. It was so nice to have somebody else thinking you might want to remember this, and so let me get this picture of you in the moment. It's just really thoughtful. And so the group of people that come to Hog Island, not just the volunteers, but the people in the actual classes, are just really wonderful and open and welcoming. So Sarah Morris led the banding day, and so we didn't catch too much. We caught some yellow warblers. We caught this American redstart, and I think that was it. It was we had the nets up for a little bit, but it was really windy. And so it was hard to catch something. Maybe there was a catbird too. But so I'm also a bird bander. I've previously given Bear a presentation about bird banding. And so hearing from Sarah as she explained like the difference in the wear on the feathers was really cool to hear. She had a different information than what I had previously heard. So I really enjoyed that experience of like learning from somebody else who's been doing this for a really long time. And also her and Anthony have a lot of strong ethics behind why they should be bird banding, what they do with the data. Sarah's just killing it. She's doing such a great job with her grad students. And now she's also the president of AOS. So really interesting to be chatting with her and hearing about banding from an expert. This is a picture of Scott on the left and Sarah on the right. So wonderful, wonderful people. And we have completed Wednesday and we're on to Ornithology Day for Thursday. This was like Sarah's day to shine. She did the morning lecture and then she did an afternoon lecture about sexing warblers. And she was awesome. She was like funny. She made people like hold things. She gave you good looks at these skins that they had. She did this test with down feathers. I think it was down feathers from a common eider nest, but she packed it and she was holding it for a minute. And then she passed it around and you could feel the warmth that the feathers had held onto. And also like she would make people close their eyes. And so you'd put your hands out and she'd put the ball of feathers into your hands. And the only reason why people could guess, if they even guessed it correctly, was because they could feel just a little bit of warmth from the feathers. So she did such an amazing job of breaking it down, making ornithology accessible, explaining the difference in feathers, in taxonomy. Just her approach was magical. And so again, as an educator, like to be able to learn from one of these people who is super in tune with how to make science come alive, it was awesome. It was so enjoyable. And then when we sat down to the afternoon lecture, she did a great job, again, of breaking down how to properly ID a female warbler. And so, you know, she made the point that often males get a lot more attention because their colors are really bright. They tend to be singing. And so, you know, whether we're talking about ducks or passerines, we tend to think of males first. And so she kind of brought out like how you can easily sex or properly ID a female. And she gave us 5 questions and then she put up a bunch of different pictures. And every time you could go through those 5 questions and properly narrow down the species. It was really awesome. And so every night that we were there, not only would you have these great experiences during the day, but you have evening presentations. So Monday night, Scott told us a little bit about MODIS, which is banding birds, putting small transmitters on them, and then as they fly on migration, they're hitting against these different cell towers that could pick up a little bit of their data. And so that was really, really cool to see, what they've been tracking and where birds are going. I believe he talked about Arctic terns and just had these amazing maps of, showing where the birds had moved and how fast they moved. It was great. Really, really interesting, awesome science behind it. And again, a super approachable, breakdown of why this matters, why we're doing this. So it was wonderful. Tuesday night, Tyke James was there. I don't know if anybody has interacted with Tyke. I know he's been to Texas a couple times. He's well known in the Blackbirders community, and he has done a couple of different videos for engaging with politicians. But he is such an enthusiastic presenter. When you sit and listen to why he wants more people to be involved and why you should be reaching out to your politicians to pass acts like RAWA, man, I just wanted to get up and go talk to someone right then and get somebody else to be signing up for, endorsing these bills like RAWA. He is so motivational and so passionate and smart. It was awesome. It was so cool to hear his take on things. On Wednesday night, Christian was there kind of talking about his big year. I did not sit through that one. I wasn't feeling good Wednesday night. So I don't have a lot of information there, but again, Hog Island just does a great job of bringing in engaging speakers that are talking about birding from a wide perspective, whether it is how you can change the world, what science is doing, or kind of fun challenges. They just really make it interesting for your evening presentations. And then finally on Thursday night, Sarah kind of talked about taxonomy again with the larger group. She had us singing songs about taxonomy and how we changed the warbler groups. It was really funny to hear, 40-ish people all singing these songs that are like a take on the Lollipop song, and it was great. She just, again, just kind of killed it. So each presentation was wonderful. I would say that my favorite part was those quiet morning hours where I could kind of sneak off and just hear like the island coming alive and coming awake. And so this picture here is from my very last morning. I got up at like 4:30 on Friday morning just to get one last hike in and try and hit some small unique parts of the island. So it was really beautiful. I did try to record it, but it did not come across on my phone. So I'm not going to play any morning sounds for you folks. And that's it. That was my experience at Hog Island. It was really quite magical. And so I'll turn it over to Corina, and then I'll be available for questions afterwards.
Fabulous. So let me introduce Corina, our second speaker. She's live, if you can believe that, and not on Zoom. So Corina is the Senior Conservation Assistant at Mitchell Lake Audubon Center. And so she's going to talk about the camp that she attended for a week, Birds of Maine Island, and where they learned a little bit about seabird identification, bird banding, and other items like that. She has a degree in biology with the concentration in ecology, Texas A&M San Antonio, and she has been working out at Mitchell Lake for 4 years. So please welcome Corina.
Scary here because I pace when I get nervous. So if I'm doing it, I'm glad y'all got to hear Yvette experience, because I kind of predicted that she was going to be very thorough and in detail, because I worked with Yvette before, and she does a great job at doing those things. Mine's a little bit more broader, I guess. But my experience was there was a little bit of overlap between me and Yvette, some of the experiences, but I went to a very completely different type of camp there. I actually went to a service week there. So I was volunteering some of my time, which, is there a clicker or? Sorry. Okay. Okay. Okay, so the camp that I went to was called Birds of Maine Island, a service learning week. And it was, so I'll start off by saying this was not the camp I was supposed to go to. So my director, Sarah Beasley at Mitchell Lake, which I know a lot of y'all know, she was the one who encouraged me to go to Hog Island. She was like, you have to go. We encourage everybody to go. It's so beautiful. And I love to travel, so I was like, and if you give me any opportunity to travel, I don't care what I'm doing, I'm gonna go. But at the same time, I was a little bit intimidated, because I always say, like, at Mitchell Lake, I'm not the birder there. I am the plant person. And like, I know some stuff because I've been working there several years, and I was kind of like forced to learn some stuff about it, but it does not register with me. I'm the plant person. So I had actually originally signed up for plants for pollinator camp, and I was really excited about it because I'm a plant nerd, and I was going to go this camp with other plant nerds, and I didn't have to worry about being inexperienced as far as, you know, being around a bunch of bird nerds and stuff. And so I was like, all right, my thing, right? About a month before, I get an email saying they got canceled because there wasn't enough people registered, and I was just like, oh no. And at this time, event went earlier than what I was supposed to go to. And at this time, the season, it was more toward the end of the season, and there was only like 2 camps left open, and this was one of them. And so I was like, well, I've kind of always been interested in volunteering and while I travel, so I guess this is a good introductory for that. So there I go, and I was like, okay, I guess I'm going to be surrounded by bird nerds after all, and I'm okay with that. So I guess the first thing that really caught my attention being there was how packed it was, my day was, and in the best way possible. I wasn't sure what was going to happen, because in the description of my camp, it was like, you could be doing this, or you could be doing that, or this might happen, or this might happen. And I was like, well, I don't know what's going to go on. So I kind of went there with like very little expectations. And then when we got there, I mean, my day was packed from morning to nighttime, and I had pretty much the best sleep of my life just because I was so tired by the end of the day. It was filled with field trips, workshops, ecology and earth science talks, and evening programs. So not only were we volunteering our time to help with what they do there at the Hog Island, but we were learning at the same time. So it was a lot. So as far as the field trips go, I'll start off with that. Different places, Eastern Egg Rock, which Yvette talked about, Harbor Island, Stratton Island, and then the main island, Hog Island itself. So I threw in Eastern Egg Rock, even though we actually didn't end up going there. And the reason why I threw it in, because it was kind of a little bit of an adventure. So it so happens, Maine had been going through a drought, kind of like when I was talking to people, it kind of was like the same way in Texas. They didn't receive much rain all year. The first main day that we're there, it's like raining. It's like the skies are dark, it's drizzling, and it's starting to rain harder and harder. We had loaded up all our stuff because we were gonna go to 8 o'clock and we were gonna build like ramps there for the people who stay there during the summer for research. And so we had all our supplies loaded, and as you can see, like, I don't know if you can tell, but everybody in here was pretty cold because it was also really cold too. And as we're on the boat, it's kind of rocky, and we get closer to Eastern Egg Rock, and like the people there are like, oh, we don't know if we're gonna be able to get there. It's choppy. All the leaders went out on the boat. So on the right-hand side, those are all like the leaders there, and they went on the boat to see if they could get on, and they couldn't even make it close to it. It was like way too choppy, and they were like, nope, we have to turn around. We can't. So they came back, but we passed by it, and we saw a bunch of bald eagles, and it was already too late in the season to see the puffins, so I didn't have any pictures of that. But it was definitely an adventure. All of us were kind of like, I hope they don't expect us to get on that boat, because it was an interesting time for sure. So we ended up going to Harbor Island, which is a beautiful island. It had some interesting history. There's a family that owns it, and they live on the house on the island, and they have a really good relationship with the people from Hog Island. They let people come out and do field trips out there. And the only thing that they ask is that not to go near their house. But I mean, it's a big area that their house is kind of in the center, and you have all this area around it to explore. So while we were there, we went hiking, we went exploring, and we did a couple hands-on volunteer type stuff, which I'll get to in a little bit. But this was me on top of one of the cliffs after we hiked and went through this little cave, and it was really pretty. That's Stratton Island. We had to take another boat out there, and that day, that was probably the most perfect weather I've ever been in my life. I mean, it was absolutely gorgeous, and we did some more volunteer stuff that I'll get into as well. And then on the main island, Yvette had talked about the artist in residencies. So they actually have a program, and it was really interesting to learn about. They have it every year, and I think it's based on their availability. So it's not just 2, it can be more than that, but it's free. So if an artist such as like an author or something that wants to go up there and have some time to concentrate on their work, they can actually apply and go stay in this cabin and stay there for, I think it's like a week's time. But we took a hike up there, and they gave us the history, but there's also some cool history there that's tied into Emily Dickinson, the person who, I guess, basically saved this island, Mabel, from being lodged and everything. They described it as some scandalous history, but basically Emily Dickinson was having an affair with this lady's brother, and the lady who saved the island, I was actually one of the editors of one of her poetry books. So it was just like some really interesting kind of offhand history to it. Okay, so as far as the workshops go, we did so many things. These are kind of the main things. We painted seabird decoys, removed some invasive vegetation, marine debris cleanup, and building blinds, and putting together materials for ramps and things. So these were on the left-hand side is the bird decor stuff, and those are we were priming them basically because they rightly should not trust us to do what's on the right-hand side. For more experience, they'll do what's on the right-hand side. So they'll paint these birds. We primed them, but I mean, we did like close to 100 birds priming them, and it was actually nice. Like it was kind of relaxing, kind of meditative to just be there talking amongst each other, and just painting the birds. It was cool. I mean, it was really fun. And they do this for to attract birds. And this is, I don't know if y'all have read about how they reestablished the puffin colonization out there on Eastern Egg Rock. This is one of the ways is that they did use bird decoys to attract them to the island. So it was actually, this is something that helps them to attract birds to those islands around there. So it's actually something that's very helpful for us to help them with to do. So the invasive removal, the bottom, I don't know if the pictures are kind of hard, but you can kind of see me in the thicket of everything. I mean, it was like this huge meadow, and they had this particular invasive species out at Mitchell Lake. That's one of the things that I concentrate on is removal of invasive species. So we were out there just in there, just cutting away, pulling away. On the right-hand side, just between the four of us, that's how much we collected within about an hour and a half's time. So I enjoyed it because I like doing stuff like that. So, I mean, I actually had a really good time. I was really proud of the work that we did. We made a dent in a part of the field. The marine debris cleanup, I mean, I was expecting there to be trash. I wasn't expecting there to be so many big items. And now that I think about it, I guess I probably should have because we're off the coast, right? I mean, but there were like tons of buoys. Like, I mean, that's not even, there's like 5 of them in the pictures. I mean, that's not even half of, that's not even a quarter of what we collected on one island off the coast. And, that's something that I also really am passionate about too, is just preserving areas, keeping them clean from litter. So it was really cool to be out on a beautiful island with people who share that type of, where they think those type of things are important as well. So it was just really nice to be with like-minded people who were just so willing to be out there and be helpful and do whatever they could or needed to help out the people of Hog Islands and the different areas that they use, for throughout the summer. And this is us building stuff. In the first picture, when I was painting the birds or whatever, y'all probably didn't notice, but my hair was all matted down. It was like all wet and crazy. And it's because right before I was out here, like building and hammering and sawing, and I was sweaty and it was drizzling on us and I was cold and I was wet. I think I did that for maybe a little over 2 hours, and I was like, I'm gonna go inside and paint some birds for a little bit, because it was so cold and like my hands were like cramping up because of like hammering and sawing and stuff. But it was still a really cool experience too. Again, like the people that I was with, they signed up purposely to volunteer and to do hands-on activities that will help, Hog Island. So it was just an amazing experience to be with people who were just so willing to do this type of work, and we all just worked really, really well together. So it was a fun experience. And that was on Stratton Island, so one of the islands that we went to. So on Stratton Island, that was one of the islands that I showed y'all. So on the left-hand side, there was an old bird blind, and we were ripping it apart. And on the right-hand side is the completed, tent platform, I'm sorry. On the right-hand side is the completed tent platform. So they have researchers on these different islands that go out there through the summer, and they stay on there. I mean, they stay there the whole summer or however long the session is, but they stay out there for a good little while. And so they have these tent platforms where they build their tent upon. And because of the weather and everything, they have to be rebuilt every pretty often. So that's another one of the things we did. And along the way, in between us doing all of this volunteer work, we were learning all along the way. We had talks about the geology, traps, seabird identification, intertidal exploration, and on the left-hand side, that's kind of the same thing like what Yvette had pointed out. They pulled out the trap, and on the right-hand side, that was actually kind of in the middle in the ocean. The captain was like, "Oh, I got some traps. Y'all want to go see them?" We're like, "Sure." So they pulled out lots of lobsters. He showed us how to measure them and the requirements, you know, to throw them back in. I do want to say, like, it felt very Maine, like a Maine experience, because when we got on the boat, the guy's name was Dan, so Captain Dan, and it was like so cold out there. It was like we're all bundled up, and this guy's in shorts and barefoot and like and he's like driving the boat around. And so I just thought it was like a funny experience. But Eric, he was one of our leaders for our particular group. And I mean, this guy was just like a wealth of knowledge. Like, I could not believe everything that he taught us. Like, he just knew so much about everything. So here on the left-hand side, he's giving us a geology based lecture, basically. And I mean, we just learned about the formation of the different rocks on the island, how things came to be. On the top right, that was a guided nature hike that we did. In the middle, that was seabird identification that we did before we went out on the first day. So I thought that was pretty cool, because I was able to actually challenge myself in identifying birds while we were out on the boat. And then, the bottom right was the intertidal. So where Yvette had showed where the crabs were and stuff, we went out there kind of more in the later afternoon, and we were pulling up the different plants out there and just seeing what we could find. And Sue was just also a wealth of knowledge, just telling us about the different marine life around there. So it was definitely very educational. And then in the evenings, the same thing as Yvette. We had just different talks on everything. We how to identify warblers, the modus tracking, and Audubon's role in their software and tracking birds. It was just, like I said, it was a wealth of knowledge there. It was, you know, I almost came away like dizzy with knowledge just because of how much I was absorbing in the week there. So I will say that if you're thinking about, if you haven't been to Maine, or if you haven't been or to Hog Island, or you haven't been to this particular program, I mean, I had an absolute great time there. I would recommend this program to anybody. I thought it was so much fun, and it felt really good to leave the island knowing that we had helped in some sort of way. And it wasn't, you know, it wasn't just that, like, that not only did I get to help, but I got to network, and I got to meet new people, and I got to learn new things. So it was just like a very well-rounded experience. And, you know, I learned some stuff about Yvette, who was talking about how it's run by volunteers, and I didn't know that. And I'm planning on, they have like an artists and birds class or something like that camp. And my daughter is an artist, so I would like to take her out there and get her out there. And so she can do that camp, and then I can volunteer while she's there, because they basically let you stay there for free. You just have to get yourself over there if you volunteer there. So if that's something y'all are interested in too, they offer that as well. And so I just wanted to conclude with a big thank you. Not everybody in here may know, but my trip was partly sponsored by Bexar Audubon. So Hog Island, actually, I got the room and board and the camp itself, a scholarship through them, and then Bexar Audubon paid for my travel. So I don't think I would have never had this experience if I didn't have that support. So I'm so glad that Audubon and Bexar Audubon, its chapters, like, offer this, because y'all get to send people who would never normally get something like this to two places like that, two experience. And you know what, I don't know if it was you or Tom that said, like, it really is a lot, once in a lifetime experience. It really was. It's like, it's a trip that I'll never forget. So yeah, that's my time.
And so now we're gonna do questions, and this is our first time. So what I'm gonna do is throw a question out to Patsy, because she's been monitoring the chat to see if she wants to do chat questions first, or should we take questions from the audience first?
Well,
Even just a couple minutes. So
hello, can you hear me out there?
Yes, I can. Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Okay, Corina has to leave in just a few minutes, so let's take questions for her first. So if you have any questions in the chat for Corina, and while you're scanning, anybody here have any questions or any comments or thoughts for Corina?
What time of the year did you go?
I went in September, like mid, I guess it was like the first week of September.
So you would recommend going earlier in the summer?
I would, especially because, oh, I'm sorry.
No.
Yeah. Especially if you are going out there for birding, like for me, it wasn't that big of a deal because like I said, I wasn't a birder, but like if you're wanting to see the puffins and you're wanting to see more birds, I would recommend going out earlier than September. for
And
sure.
the weather too.
Yeah, yeah.
I have a question from the chat for Corina. I think you answered it, but I'm going to bring this up. Has Hog Island, do they have any non-native invasive plants that are a problem? I think we saw bags of them.
I can't remember what they were called, honestly. They were really easy to identify, but like all they had to do was point me in the direction. I was like, all right. And like I said, from what they told me, they've been doing this for a couple of years as far as clearing this one particular invasive plant, and they were already seeing improvements from season to season, which I mean, I know it works because I do that at Mitchell Lake too. You know, I always tell people like how important it is to pull invasives by the roots, and like it may seem tedious, but you know, by the next season, you're going to see less, and then the season after that, less and less. So I was glad to be able to help them out with them, and I'm glad that other people's volunteer hours has been able to make a dent for them.
Thanks. And one more question related to plants, since you're the plant nerd. It says, does Hog Island have oaks on the island? Since they're a great source of insects, just a person was interested in knowing that.
No, I don't remember seeing any oaks there. They had a lot of like birch trees, I think. So that was like one of the main trees that they had out there. Yeah.
Okay, great. Thank you. All right, thank you. And then I have a couple of questions, or one question in particular for Yvette, if she would come back on.
Hit me.
Okay, you mentioned something in your presentation that the person would like to know what that meant. It says, please explain what rawa is.
Oh,
They've heard it, but they think that an explanation would be helpful for some people in the audience.
great call. Thank you to whoever sent in that question. RAWA stands for Rewilding America's Wildlife Act. And it was a huge push that Audubon had signed on to. There had been many representatives and I believe some senators that had been signed on to it. We were hoping, I went to camp in June, and so we were hoping to have that pass this end of fall legislation, and it did not make it. But that was one of the things that Taiki had talked about, is the value of the Rewilding America's Wildlife Act was really, it would have brought in lots of money into the state of Texas, lots of wildlife resources into all the states. And so he was very passionately talking about the importance of engaging our representatives and our senators to understand why wildlife is so important. And when we protect them, we protect humans. So great question.
Thank you. Thank you very much. And just a Bexar Audubon comment on that, when we have these, we need people's voices, because more voices mean people listen better. If you repeat it, if 100 people say the same thing, it's much more powerful. So if you get a message from us asking for your support, please consider chiming in. That's very easy to do it because they write the letters for you. You can customize it and help us with that. And Yvette, you had a direct question that you wanted to share with the larger group.
Yeah, so somebody had asked me, what were the 5 points or questions that Sarah talked about in narrowing down female warbler ID? And so thank you for that question. The 5 things that Sarah talked about was breast color, and specifically, is it bright yellow or something else? So that kind of splits our warblers into different groups. And then any kind of face markings. So if a male has like an eye mask, then most likely the female is going to have a lighter eye mask, but still kind of noticeable. Breast streaking or not streaking. Areas of contrasting color, so kind of brighter, duller colors right next to each other, and then wing bars. So those are the 5 things that she broke down, and it really worked. Like if you pull up a Blackburnian male and then you look at the female, you know, if he's got a mask on, she's got a slighter mask. If he's got a bright yellow breast, she's got a yellow breast. And so just kind of pairing those things up. That was really an awesome presentation from Sarah. And a couple of things that while Corina was talking, I was like, oh, right, I had that experience too. And so I just wanted to highlight for everybody else, COVID precautions. They did a great job of really making the area as safe as possible, with requiring vaccinations, but then masks inside. So a lot of Corina's pictures while they were doing stuff inside, people were masked up, and that was normal. And so for anybody who has any kind of health concerns, know that they're doing their best to make camp accessible and safe. They also had question of the day for us where, you know, whether it was Sarah's question or Christian's question, the presenter would create a question of the day, and it was challenging and it was really fun. So kind of going back to Corina's point of learning each day, it was awesome that the way that they challenged you to kind of learn outside the box. And they gave prizes away at the end of the week for the person with the most answers. And I had mentioned Karen earlier, who's in Dallas or Farmers Branch, and she won for our week. So that was awesome. And then we also had very rainy, cold weather. So somebody had asked like what time of year Corina went. I went in early or mid-June, and we still had a really cold day. If it rains at all, it feels very different than Texas summers.
Which recommends it to some of us.
Yes.
Well, that's all the questions I have, but I have many wonderful comments, thanking both you, Yvette, and Corina for your wonderful travel logs and what you really gained from it. And having been to Hog Island myself, I know we can, those of us who've been can ditto, 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 everything you said. And thank you so much. So I'll turn it back on with you. I've got 2 new messages that came in. Let's just see. No, just more compliments, you guys. So I'll turn it back over to Britt and
thank you, Yvette, for a fabulous discussion. Guess I should look this way. But you're right there. We'll get used to this. We'll get better at it. We'll get better at it. But thank you, Yvette, for a fabulous discussion. I think Corina did a great job too. And that pretty much concludes our program. We still got some more snacks over here. And one last note, if anybody is still online and anybody's here, we invite you back the 4th Wednesday of every month for our programs. We'll try to always have snacks. Feel free to bring something. I wanted to mention this at the beginning and forgot. Feel free to bring something to share. We always do better when we share what other people have, right? Whether it's knowledge or food or just good times. But thank you so much for the people that showed up live. And thank you, everyone out there in Radio Land or Zoom Land, whatever you call it.
yeah,
So.
and I just want to say one last thing is that we have recorded this meeting, and we will post it on our website. What is it called? Just went out my left ear. Anyway, it'll be online, and then the link to it will be on our website. Just go to our website and you can find it. Yeah. So I'm signing off on Zoom at this point. Here's somebody.
How many people were online?
Yes, there were 45 people online.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And some people, this was their first meeting.
Fabulous. That's fabulous. All right. Thanks a lot. We can sign off now.